Okay, so something that people have been talking about lately is Final Fantasy IX Remake, which is something that I didn't think was going to happen. I remember making a video about this 2 years ago, whether or not Square Enix should remake the original Final Fantasy IX game. Didn't think that's actually going to happen, but since it's going to happen, a lot of people are wondering when exactly the game's going to come out. And based off of what I read online, it's going to come out sometime, if not late next year, sometime in 2025. And this is a game that people have waited over 2 decades to see, and it's kind of baffling that Final Fantasy IX never really got an official remake. And honestly, I do feel like this is a game that definitely deserved a remake because it was one that was overlooked during its time. Because I think Final Fantasy IX originally came out on the PS1 console back in 2000. It did over 5 million sales. It wasn't quite as popular as Final Fantasy 7, 8, or 10, but at the same time, it was still a good game in general. The plot for the game was really intriguing. The main character was more of an anti-hero, which is something a lot of people like nowadays. And the story's more interesting because the princess that the main character rescue, her mother is basically one of the main antagonists of the series because she basically provokes a war between like nations in the game. And just the retelling of that is going to be intriguing, like the voice acting, the sound score, all that stuff. I know is going to be epic because Final Fantasy 16 was epic. Final Fantasy 7 Crisis Core was awesome. And I also read reports that this remake is supposed to be similar to that of Final Fantasy 7 Crisis Core. And people are still saying good things about it to this day because I believe Crisis Core came out back in 2022. But then again, I mean, Crisis Core was a part of the Final Fantasy VII series, so people are going to say good things about that regardless. Um, Final Fantasy IX, honestly, I think that it's going to be one that people can get into, especially considering the fact that the setting is more medieval opposed to modern and technology based and everything like that. And I honestly feel like that's what Final Fantasy should be. It should be more fantasy based, more medieval, because feels like it feels like a medieval setting kind of like gives the Final Fantasy series its identity. Even though Final Fantasy 15 didn't have that medieval setting and it was really popular. Like when you think of like the origins of the Final Fantasy series, a lot of it was like pretty medieval, and I do feel like that's something that a lot of people are going to like about Final Fantasy 9 once it's released. And I honestly feel like the plot for Final Fantasy 9 is somewhat relevant to what's going on in modern times, excluding like the blight, because we had COVID, like over a year ago, and I guess like in Final Fantasy 16, the blight is kind of like the fantasy equivalent of COVID-19 or what have you, but at the same time, the idea of like nations going to war and stuff like that's something that's a real possibility, in real life, with the issues concerning China and Russia and Ukraine and all that stuff. So it is what it is, and I'm just interested to see what the gameplay looks like. How the voice over acting is going to be handled, what game systems it's going to be released on, whether or not they're going to include the ADB system in this game in terms of battle, all that stuff. We're gonna have to wait and see, what's gonna happen and what Square Enix is going to bring back and what new features they're going to add, because I feel like those type of things is really going to determine whether or not Final Fantasy IX is a huge success or not. And the thing is, along with trying to appeal to the hardcore fan base of Final Fantasy fans from back in the day, they would have to make this in a way that also appeals to casuals as well, because nowadays a lot of people. have like short attention spans, and if it's something that doesn't necessarily grab their attention within the first couple of minutes, then they really don't give a damn about it. But it seemed like Square Enix has been on a roll as of late with their remakes and their new games, anything relating to the Final Fantasy series. Square Enix has been on a roll, and as far as Final Fantasy 9 is concerned, I'm not exactly sure how far in development Square Enix is in, but I'm looking forward to their next online presentation, and hopefully, Final Fantasy 9 is something that blows our expectations out of the water once gameplay footage is revealed in the future.